said it themselves. They've declassified a lot of information proving and finding many unidentified flying objects in the sky. Even American pilots have seen many of them, but at the time it was all sealed. After all, the world is vast, and the universe is even more boundless. It's hard to say what can happen, but it's possible there are technologically advanced beings that surpass us, beings that are more advanced than Earth. But watching this film, it's clear to me that it's definitely not a drone. Why? Because just look at the cloud layers. The brightness of a drone wouldn't be this intense. No matter how bright a drone is, it wouldn't reach this level. The brightness shining through the clouds, showing it's above the cloud layer, and still being that bright is impressive. From the witnesses' observations, it changes speed quickly. Unlike airplanes which follow a certain flight path, these objects change rapidly. So I think it's likely that this is the UFU fleet, with many U-5s appearing simultaneously over Jiangzhou.
All right, Shalom. First off, I want to start up by saying all praises, honor, and glory is due unto Yahweh by Shibyan Rashad, by Hashem Rakakadash. That's all praises to the world calls God, whose true name in the Hebrew is Yahweh, by Hashem meaning in the name, Yahweh Shai being the name, but only begotten Son. The water for another hit of the Spirit so I can, edify the flock. Double honors to the elders and apostles of Great Millstone. Peace and mercy to the hopeful elect. And the brother talks about a Great Millstone Arizona camp. Well, with another video to edify. So we can get into this, man. You saw on here, and I don't know if, maybe this is the internet again, doing false interpretations of these things. But what was said in the video does make sense. There's next to few any things that can actually show light through, clouds. Even the sun gets dark. Even the sun gets blocked out by a certain cloud cover. So the fact that these things have been able to do that and light up through cloud cover shows you that this is something happening on Earth that the Lord has to have His hand in. Because remember, the scriptures talk about how the chariots of the Lord are as pillars of fire, right? Right? The angels are ministering spirits and flames of fire. Roughly paraphrasing. This is what we're seeing. And this stuff is growing on the earth because the Lord is getting ready to use these things both for the destruction of our enemies and for the salvation of the hopeful elect, man. Bros have had dreams of the chariots. I've had a dream of the chariots. I've actually had two dreams of the chariots. So what we getting ready to see is some intense stuff. And the Lord is about to do His work, His strange work, right? So let's get into these scriptures. This is Zechariah 5:1. It says, Then I turned and lifted up my eyes, and behold, and lifted up my eyes and looked, and behold, a flying roe. Right? What was that flying roe? It's these chariots. What we're seeing now, the scripture spoke about these things over and over again. And He said unto me, What seest thou? I answered, I see a flying roe. The length thereof is 20 cubits, and the breadth thereof 10 cubits. Then said He unto me, This is the curse that goeth over the face of the whole earth. You see, this is what the curse that's going to go over the face of the whole earth, because these things are going to be zapping, destroying all type of shit, because it's the Spirit of the Lord in those things and the angels working with them. For everyone that stealeth shall be cut off on this side, according to it, and everyone that sweareth shall be cut off on that side, according to it. You see? It says, I will bring it forth, say Yahweh of hosts, and it shall enter into the house of the thief. And who's the house of the thief? Babylon the Great. These Edomites rulership, these are the houses of the thief. This is why America has seen a grave uptick of so-called UFO, UAP, whatever you want to call them, sightings, because these things are entering into the house of the thief and into the house of him that swear falsely by my name. Esau does that all the time. It says, and it shall remain in the midst of his house, and shall consume it with the timber thereof and the stone thereof. Why? Because These things are bringing that concentrated fire. When you go into the book of Second Ezra, this is Second Ezra. Second Ezra 13, and I got to start at I started to just get it all. It says, and lo, there arose a wind from the sea, and it moved all the waves thereof. And I beheld, and lo, that man waxed strong with the thousands of heavens. Talking about Yahweh Shai, because Yahweh Shai said what? How did that scripture go, man? Isaiah 63:1, it says, who is this that coming from Edom with dyed garments from Basra? These are both Edom, so-called white man, Basra being his chief place of dwelling, right? This that is glorious in his peril, traveling in the greatness of his strength. And what is the greatness of the Lord's strength? Right? His host. All those chariots of the Lord in the skies, what this world calls UFOs, that's going to be Yahweh Shai traveling in the greatness of his strength. All you're going to see the entire skies filled with him, and then you're going to see Yahweh Shai sitting on his mighty fathership. It says, I that speak in righteousness mighty to save. So back in 2 Ezra 13, and in 3, it says, and I beheld, and lo, that man waxed strong with the thousands of heaven. Right? Because it's what the scripture said. The chariots of the Lord are 10,000s, or 10,000s, thousands of angels. Right? It says, and when he turned his countenance to look, all things trembled that were seen under him. And whensoever the voice went out of his mouth, they all burned that heard his voice, like as the earth felleth when it filleth the fire. Talking about what these laser beams is going to shoot out. And it goes in detail how these things go. It says, and after this I beheld, and lo, that there was gathered together a multitude of men out of number from the four winds of the heavens. For the four winds of heaven, talking about for the four winds of the earth, from the four winds of these rulerships. All these nations are going to come together. And that's that multitude of men. It says to subdue the man that came out of the sea. And that's Yahweh Shai that they're going to fight against, man. Right? Revelation tells you in righteousness, he doth make war. It's going to be a righteous thing that the Lord does when he fights all these heathen. It says, but I beheld, and lo, he graved himself a great mountain and flew upon it. Right? But I would have seen the region or the place where out the hill was graven, and I could not, because what? That chariot that Yahweh Shai is coming on is going to be so gigantic. You're not going to be able to see the ends of it. Remember, the scriptures talk about the elect were caught up in a cloud, not plural, singular. Imagine the 144,000 and 1/3. That chariot has to fit that. It says, but I would have seen the region or the place where out the hill was graven, and I could not. And after I beheld, and lo, and after this I beheld, and lo, all they which were gathered together to subdue him were sore afraid, and yet durst fight. Right? And this is why Esau is using his technology to sit here and make super soldiers. He's trying to cut off that fear response. And that's all playing into the Lord's thing. His plan. Had these devils shaking in their boots and still go to battle with them. And lo, he as he saw the violence of the multitude that came, he neither lifted a pen nor held sword nor any instrument of war, But only I saw that he sent out of his hand as it had been, a blast of fire, and out of his lips a flaming breath, and out of his tongue he cast out sparks and tempests, talking about those concentrated laser beams the chariots will be using. Right? A blast of fire, a flaming breath, and out of his tongue he cast out sparks and tempests, and they were all mixed together. The blast of fire, the flaming breath, and the great tempest. Imagine just that intense heat just swirling around each other and just hitting the earth wherever the Lord wants. It says in the great tempest, and fell with violence upon the multitude which was prepared to fight. Yahushai it's not going to take a lot of work for Yahushai to destroy these fucking heathen, and burn them up every one, so that upon a sudden an innumerable multitude, nothing was to be perceived, but only dust and smell of smoke. When I saw this, I was afraid, because that entire battle that these heathen think they're going to have with Yahushua, he's going to put a quick end to it. These are the chariots of the Lord, and they've been showing themselves, and they're going to be used to destroy the heathen, but to save the elect, right? Habakkuk 3, and you know what? I got to start at 3. It just goes into it again. Most High came from Teman, which is a dwelling place of Esau, and the Holy One from the Mount of Paran, Salah. His glory covered the heavens, and the earth was full of his presence. All those chariots of the Lord are going to be everywhere. And his brightness was as the light. He had horns coming out of his hand, and there was hiding his power. Right? Horns represent strength. Before him went the pestilence, and burning coals from his feet. Imagine how it's standing on his chariot, and all you see is those blasts of fire just coming down on earth. Those laser beams, boom, you see people burn up. He stood and measured the earth, and behold, he drove asunder the nations, and the everlasting mountains were scattered, right? All these great rulerships that have been in this earth, all that stuff is going to be destroyed. And the perpetual hills did bow. His ways are everlasting. I saw the tents of Kashan in affliction, and the curtains of the land of Median did tremble. Was Yahweh displeased with the rivers? Was his anger against the rivers? Was thy wrath against the sea, that thou didst ride upon thine horses and thy chariots of salvation? You see, these things are used for destruction, but they're also chariots of salvation, right? Thy bow was made quite naked according to the oath of the tribes, even thy word, Salah, thou didst cleave the earth with rivers. The mountains saw thee, and they trembled. The overflowing of the water passed by. The deep uttered his voice and lifted up his hands on high. You see, the Lord has a judgment, and he's going to use some chariots to do it. Yahushua even covered it. He said, what? Don't you think I could pray to the Father and he'll send me 10 legions of angels? These things are so bright that they're shining through the clouds. That's a good point to take a note of. Esau ain't got no energy like that can just float above the clouds and move it. Man, get out of here. This is the Lord's movie, and he has the most power. This is just a show of it. And we're going to be delivered in or by these things, right? But Lord willing, this is edifying. I'm going to say, call Allah, Yahweh, Shem, Shai, Shem, Shalom.